knows, maybe people like fascism better than democracy. I've worked under dictatorships. I mean, in some ways, working under a dictatorship as a journalist, so easy, because you know what you can't do. Time to go, right? Okay.
You've described social media as a behavior modification system where repeated lies become facts. How do you see artificial intelligence amplifying that in the coming years?
Generative AI can have me speaking and saying things that I have never said or done. So it literally creates different realities. So it's no longer playing with your mind alone. This is the version of reality. So I think this is problematic when you're talking about a public information ecosystem, because in order to have a working democracy, you literally have to listen to each other and believe each other, right? Facts, truth, and trust.
Right.
None of this is actually enshrined in the public information ecosystem today. And that's the beginning of kind of coming to the upside down world, where if you lie, and you lie all the time, you're rewarded. And if you incite fear and anger and hate, you're rewarded.
Now, given your experiences combating this disinformation, especially against yourself in the Philippines, what steps do you think tech companies and governments should be taking to mitigate AI-generated disinformation, especially around times like elections when truthfulness is at a premium?
None of the big tech companies have put safety front and center. If they were drug companies, they would have had to go through tests, and they would have to get approval, and they would be accountable if someone had a negative reaction to the drug. What tech has done with software is they call it emergent behavior for how people behave on the software. So they roll it out, and then, oh my God, you, group A, sorry, you died taking this.
So are you saying that tech companies need to be regulated like drug companies?
Like tobacco, like drugs, like every other single industry globally, right? The tech CEOs will say, no, you can't, you'll stop innovation. Actually, society and governments are the ones paying for the harms that this kind of rampant throwing into reality, testing with real people system that we have today. There's a reason why 71% of the world, according to VDEM, is now under authoritarian rule. We are electing illiberal leaders democratically because we believe we are doing the right thing, right? So what did tech do? It hacked our emotions, changed the way we feel, which changed the way we see the world, and changed the way we act, including vote.
You've called for rebuilding journalism as an antidote to tyranny. In the age of artificial intelligence, what does that rebuilding look like, given what you've just told me?
Dmitry Muratov and I, along with 300 Nobel laureates, civil society groups, we spent almost a year coming up with a 10-point action plan. Those 10 points boil down to only 3. The first is stop surveillance for profit, right? Data privacy is a myth nowadays.
Right.
And it shouldn't be. So the first, stop surveillance for profit. The second was to stop coded bias. Because again, if you want to scale immediately, all of the biases that are inherent in the engineer, the way they coded it, and what did they code it for? Massive growth, right. Massive adoption. If you are a woman or LGBTQ+, or marginalized in any way in the real world, if you're from the global south, you are further marginalized online. That is what the code does, right? And yet again, no one is held accountable. And then the third one was when we decided that you need journalism as an antidote to tyranny. Because let's just say generative AI is working, right? And everyone can be a citizen journalist. What do you need real journalists to do? You need investigative journalism. You need to make sure that the checks and balances of government, that the worst of humanity isn't what is driving government actions, right? That officials and leaders are held accountable, both in the public and the private sector.
Right, and you know, in journalism, in our industry specifically, and in the media industry, there's now this pressure to adopt AI, to bring it into the newsrooms,
Yep.
to use it in our work. How do you feel about that, given what you've just told me?
First, on the journalism end, we can't be left behind. That's how we created Rappler in 2011. I took a look at it and said that legacy media, the very things that made us successful, which is workflows, processes that are anchored, right? Those are the reasons why we were going to lose in the age of technology. So that's why we created Rappler, right? We embrace the technology. God, if only I had known that putting a share button on Rappler actually gives away every single relationship any my news group would have.
Wow.
That's what we've done. And we are about to do the same thing again with generative AI. I think the chaos that we are seeing now, the kind of deluge of crap and the inability of Gen Z to make sense, to find values, to find meaning, this is what we have sacrificed.
I've seen you walk through a room and not able to walk a straight line because everybody wants to learn from you and everybody wants to know what you have to say. What I want to ask from you is, how do you decompress from that? Particularly, what kind of music are you listening to get your head out of that space
Oh my gosh.
and have a bit of space to yourself?
Oh my God. So I just saw Suffs, the Broadway play on the women who fought for the right to vote.
About the suffragettes.
The suffragettes. So Suffs. It's like on loop right now. And part of it is because now more than ever, there is a battle. It is a battle for our rights. It is a battle to reclaim our rights. The fact that Gen Z is pushed into identity battles that have become political, we need to protect our next generation. Imagine like if you told your child to lie all the time, that child will grow up in a particular way. That's the world we're creating today. This is not acceptable to me and to so many like me.
I asked you the music question because I wanted to figure out, do you ever take a break from the fighting? Your answer is you never stop fighting because there's something at the end of it.
Well, you never stop fighting because everything is at risk today. I mean, who knows? Maybe people like fascism better than democracy. You know what? I've worked under dictatorships. I mean, in some ways, working under a dictatorship as a journalist, so easy because you know what you can't do. Right? So, like, in this time when you have agency, maybe we need to value it more and do something to maintain it.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. There's a great song called Is It Worth It?
Okay.
Shana Taub wrote this song. Is it worth it? She was the suffragette Alice Paul. And
Is it on Spotify? Can you share the link?
yeah.
All right.
It's great.
All right,
Anyway,
once we take the microphones off, I'm going to get
Yeah.
the link off. I'll give it a listen. Thank
you
so
have to
much.
watch stuff. No.